Good evening, everybody. Josh Kittle here with Project Blue Smoke Monster, and doing kind of a special live stream tonight. Aiming for it to be about an hour, maybe a little shorter. We'll see how it takes us. But a lot of you have heard me talk about my microcontroller trainer right here. You can check this out. It's on Tindy, www.tindy.com/shops/Blue Smoke Monster. You can get there from my website as well, you guessed it, bluesmokemonster.com. So what is the trainer board? Really, the goal of tonight's live stream is to talk about that exact question. What is the trainer board? Why did I build it? What did I have in mind as I was creating it? How does it work? What do you need to know? What are the essentials to get started with this product doing your own prototyping? So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to swing a couple of different cameras into use tonight, I imagine. I'll hold the thing up and do a little shimmy and tell you how it's all awesome and whatnot. This is Rev 2 of the board. So let me grab another board here. This is the beginning of everything. The Rev 1.0 board. Believe it or not, I spent probably a year and a half messing around in Eagle before I came up with the Rev 1.0 board. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to create a PCB that would allow me to grab the things that float around on my desk, like TFT screens and rotary encoders. It's funny, none of the things that were sitting on my bench then are sitting on my bench now because they're all on the trainer board. But I would grab all these same parts and I would use them from project to project to project. Every project I'd create would have some kind of user interface. Maybe it was a rotary encoder, maybe it was a push button. There were always some sort of LEDs. Sometimes they were RGB LEDs. I was using either an ESP32 or an Arduino Nano. Sometimes I was using an ESP01. So all these common pieces and parts that I'd bring together for every project, I got tired of having to constantly think, what pinout do I use for setting up a TFT with touch and an SD card reader? And I would do things differently from project to project, and that was confusing. That was not an effective way of getting things done. So what I did is I sat down and I developed what I call the Microcontroller Trainer. And this board is a carrier for all those parts that I constantly use. As I develop a use case, for example, how do I use a touch TFT with an SD card and an ESP32? I'll create a sketch that's kind of a self-documenting example or curriculum for how to do that with this board. So the next time I just want to add something to it, whatever that basic sketch is, whatever that basic feature and functionality that I want is, I've already done it once. I can look at that building block and apply it to whatever the project is at hand. So old Rev 1.0 board. This one's actually, I've got a Nano and some leads and a cap on there. This is what I use to test the pixels, the individual serially controlled WS2812Bs are what I used on the original board. Now I'm using SK6812s. But that's what this board's for. That's what this board does. So if I'm shipping you a pre-assembled board with the SMD work done, I've already tested the LEDs using that. It's crude, but it does the job. This right here, and I apologize because I've been cannibalizing parts off of a few things to experiment. That's not the point of the board, but I'm guilty of it. This is BSM number 1. This is Microcontroller Trainer Rev 2, which is the first production release that ever got in anybody's hands but my own. First built, serial number 1. It's exactly the same as every single Rev 2 kit that I've ever sold. There have been no enhancements, no modifications. This board is what you get. It's what I use on my bench. In fact, I have 2 of them. Kind of a perk of designing it, right? And this is the real deal. It's not perfect. There are some things that I didn't design as well as I could have. And those improvements are working their way into Rev 3. I've already got a prototype of the first beta of Rev 3 right here. Now, it's not even close to ready for release. We're looking at Q1, Q2 of next year. So if you want a board, Rev 2 is still the place to be. So let me talk about some of the things that I don't like about Rev 2. What did I do that I want to do differently? Well, for one, I want to make assembly easier. There are some vias, one in particular that kind of haunts my dreams, near these RGB LEDs, that if you're hand soldering the board and you don't pay attention, you can accidentally bridge the solder joint, and you wonder, why does my LED not work? Well, it's because you had an assembly error, but it's really difficult to know that. When I assemble them with hot air, I don't have that problem. Now that I know it's something I have to look for, I can inspect it when I hand assemble them, and it's not a problem. It's in the wiki, so if you've built one, that's the thing to pay attention to. The original power supply, it works just fine. It's a couple of linear regulators. In fact, I'm going to talk about this in detail, but it's a couple of linear regulators. I'm using two LM317s, which are adjustable voltage regulators, and they've got some resistors that set output voltages. Again, that works just fine. I'd rather go a different direction with it. There's some silkscreen on the board right here next to the ESP01 that says HC05 Bluetooth module. The HC05 Bluetooth module's not down here, it's up here. That's a remnant of a silkscreen error of an object that was supposed to be deleted from the board but didn't get deleted. What happens in early releases? You make mistakes, you find things that you could do better, and then they evolve into future products. In fact, the Rev 3 board is not even being designed in Eagle. I've made the switch and I'm using KiCad 100% for this project. So, some exciting things in the work. So, more about what you're here for. Talking about the Microcontroller Trainer. I'm going to go ahead and flip on another camera and give you a bit of an overhead view of things, and we're going to take a little bit of a detailed tour of the trainer board.